Visitors to the Centre for Eye Research Australia's Mini Vision Expo explore the displays. Small groups of people talk and engage with the researchers and the products on show.
I'm Dr. Flora Hugh and I'm a Glaucoma Research Fellow at the Centre for Eye Research Australia. And my research is all about glaucoma, which is a leading cause of irreversible blindness around the world. And I'm particularly interested in new treatments and finding new devices to help us diagnose eye disease earlier. Today they're going to hear a little bit about a clinical trial that I'm currently leading. It's a vitamin B3 in glaucoma and looking at how it can potentially protect nerve cells in the eye to prevent vision loss in people living with glaucoma. Ultimately, I hope that my work will help prevent vision loss in people living with different eye conditions, but also help improve care pathways as well, so that people can have inclusive and accessible care.
My name's Fleur and I'm looking at the way that we engage with people about research. So I'm really interested in working out some ways that we can really try and make information accessible to people. So really thinking about how would they like to see their information. So working with people to come up with a range of ideas, and hopefully we can ensure that this process is more enjoyable for people. Well, they're going to hear about the project, and this is part of a body of research that we're doing to look at the different ways that we can engage with people in more effective ways. So we might have some fruitful conversations today, which would be great, about what sort of ideas would they have in terms of how would they like to hear about our research. And it might be that they like videos, or they might like animations, or even audio, or even a podcast. But we're open to ideas, and I think it's really about just trying to see what people want and how they are going to best hear about our research. I think that it's really about engaging with them and finding out how we can best let them know about our research. I think ultimately really also about training researchers and giving them the tools to be able to adapt the way that they actually present their communications to people. And certainly we want to ensure that people feel included and that they actually have enough information about the research so that they can make a well-informed decision about whether it's suitable for them. It may not be, or it may be, but having enough information and having that information in an accessible way, I think is really about building agency, and hopefully people feel more empowered to be involved in research and are excited about the journey.
My name's Luke Price and I'm representing Guide Dogs Victoria. My role is an orientation and mobility specialist, and I'm also a team leader of our Eastern Region team at Guide Dogs. Can expect to showcase and discuss the services that we have on offer, everything from obviously guide dog mobility to our other services like orientation mobility, OT, occupational therapy, orthoptics. We have quite a bit of information available to share with any participants today, as well as demonstrating some of our equipment or low vision aids that can be useful for people who are blind or have low vision. We've got wonderfully skilled practitioners and staff who will provide lots of information about what Guide Dogs is all about, and I guess help guide them through the process and the steps that are appropriate for their individual needs in relation to learning and developing skills regarding their vision loss.
I'm Dr. Alarco Martinez, Luis Alarco Martinez, and we are working in basic research. Basic research is one of the types of research we have in CERA, and is studying the basic knowledge. We are trying to understand the basic mechanisms in the eye and in the brain. Well, we are going to present a little bit our research that is related to nerve cells and blood vessels and all the sophisticated communication between them, and I hope they will like it. I believe our research is very important for them because, again, we are trying to understand the basic mechanisms that after are going to be important for eye diseases, for glaucoma, for age-related macular degeneration, etc. And our work is very important because we are understanding these basic mechanisms that unfortunately is not working well. They are not working well in people suffering from this disease. So we are giving knowledge for after create new treatments and new therapies for these people.
I'm representing Vision Australia, Australia's largest provider of blind and low vision services across the country. And my name is Nabil, and I'm the Clinical Relationship Manager at Vision Australia. So people can expect to see a range of items that may help them, such as magnification, handheld, electronic, some simulation of eye diseases. So we've got a 3D simulator that will simulate the 4 main eye diseases that people may experience. And we've also got some information on when they should be coming in to see us and the types of services that we can offer them if their vision is waning and their glasses aren't helping them, or they've been diagnosed with an eye disease or an eye problem that's stopping them from doing the things that they love to do. I'd say give us a call, have a listen to what we've got to offer. There are lots of ways we can help people. You don't have to be blind or need a dog or a cane to come and see us. You could just have lost your driver's licence, still have pretty good vision, but just can't do those fine detailed things. Have a talk to us, listen to about our services, join our library, join social support groups. There are lots of different ways we can help people.
So my name is Paga Trung and I'm a research genetic counsellor in the area of inherited retinal diseases. I work here at Centre for Eye Research Australia and the University of Melbourne. So today I'm going to talk about our inherited retinal disease registry. So our registry recruits people with inherited retinal diseases, and we want to learn more about inherited retinal diseases and how it progresses over time. But not only that, but being on the registry, we can link them up with clinical trials that are relevant to them if it's something they are interested in. So there's a lot of benefits of being on the registry if you have inherited retinal diseases. So I'd like to learn more about how inherited retinal diseases progresses over time and how we can tell patients what to expect, how those diseases progress over time so they can plan their lives accordingly. The other thing is I hope there are more therapies and treatments for inherited retinal diseases, whether they're gene therapies or other therapies. I hope that this opens up the doors for more targeted therapies in the future.
So good morning to all the people and furry friends that we have here today. My name is Dr. Flora Hugh and I'm a glaucoma research fellow here at CERA. And I'm going to be your MC for today's community forum and Mini Vision Expo event. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nations, who are the traditional owners of the land on which CERA and Cerulea clinical trials are located. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and I extend my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island people who are here today. I'd also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are disproportionately affected by vision loss and blindness, and that with our partners at the University of Melbourne and the Royal Victorian Eye and Ear Hospital, we are committed to eliminating that gap in eye health. I'd also like to thank the Royal Victorian Eye and Ear Hospital for sharing their facilities for today's event. And I'd just like to quickly run through some housekeeping. The toilets are actually located at the rear of the foyer, so you come out this door and you turn right and it's right at the end. And in the unlikely event of an emergency, we ask that you follow all the directions from fire wardens and calmly exit the building. And to orientate everyone, I'm standing behind a lectern and there's a large screen behind me where there are some slides and they'll be shown as we go through. I'd also like to extend a very special welcome to Vision Australia, Guide Dogs Victoria, who are sharing their services with everyone in our Mini Vision Expo today. And most importantly, I want to welcome our consumers, members of our communities who are the reason that I come to work and do research. And to officially introduce CERA and Cerulea's first consumer advisory group, I'd like to invite Simon Bruin, CERA board member and chair of the Consumer Advisory Group, to speak. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Fiona. Isn't this great to see so many people here with a common interest in a subject near and dear to us? We also have people live streaming, so welcome to those people as well. Thank you for joining us this morning and participating in this CERA and Cerulea Community Forum and Expo. Whether you are here in person or indeed joining us online. I'm going to share with you a little bit about our Community Advisory Group and introduce our members. But before doing that, I too would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my deep respects to the Woiwurrung elders, past, present and emerging, and to all elders of the Kulin Nation, and in particular any First Nations people that might be with us this morning. CERA has appointed a consumer advisory group, and it has done so to help shape the direction of research at CERA and Cerulea clinical trials. And it's my privilege to have been invited to chair this group and to do so in my capacity as a board director at CERA. I'm also on the board of the Ioneer Hospital, and again I extend also my thanks to the Ioneer for use of these terrific facilities. The redevelopment has been long in the tooth, as everyone will know, but how good is this that we can access and share such wonderful facilities. But I'd also like to acknowledge on behalf of the Ioneer the long-standing and important relationship that we have with CERA. Through the work of the advisory group, we want to bring the voices of consumers, people living with eye conditions and their families, into the heart of medical research and strategic planning undertaken by CERA. We have a vision that this initiative will ensure that consumer insights directly shape our research priorities. Also, the development of new treatments for eye disease and the overall direction of CERA and its wholly owned subsidiary Cerulea. I think this has been described as indeed a turning point for CERA. Involving consumers directly in our research isn't just the right thing to do, it's going to make our work more impactful. These are the voices that matter most, and we're making sure that they indeed guide our research activities. Now, a little bit about the Consumer Advisory Group. Kelly has ensured that it's made up appropriately of independent consumer members, advocacy group members, CERA researchers and Cerulea clinical trials representatives, and is indeed very ably supported by Kelly in her capacity as CERA's consumer involvement and advocacy lead. As I've mentioned, the group will provide advice on various aspects of CERA and Cerulea's work, from early research design and clinical trials experience to the rollout of results. This collaboration will ensure that CERA's research is both practical and responsive to the needs of the community. I now want to spend a little bit of time to introduce you the members of our advisory group that are here today, and I trust I won't embarrass our members, but I will ask them to stand as I introduce them to you. Our community advisory group members come from diverse backgrounds and bring indeed a wide range of experiences related to eye health. Each member's contribution is invaluable, and it will assist CERA remaining at the forefront of consumer-centred research. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Colleen Lewis. Colleen is an honorary professor at the Australian Studies Institute at ANU and an associate of the Centre for Public Integrity, a member of the Accountability Roundtable, and a member of the Australasian Study of Parliaments Group Victoria Executive. Her areas of expertise include public policy, politics and policing, and the focus of her research is predominantly on accountability, transparency, openness in public life. And Colleen has authored a number of books spanning several social science disciplines, and Colleen has lost her central vision in her left eye from dry macular degeneration and has wet and dry macular degeneration in her right. So, welcome, Colleen. I'd like now to introduce Daniel. Daniel Talco is, I should add, he's just off the plane from Egypt. He's literally driven down the Tullamarine Freeway to be here, so that's a commitment. Daniel became a CAG member after being inspired by the research team members who supported him through his clinical trial. Usher syndrome showed Daniel that success in life was not dependent on all senses being perfect. As a mental health clinician, Daniel's an occupational therapist and a mindset coach, Daniel hopes his contribution can help improve the experience of others going through clinical trials and those wanting to move from setback to triumph. So great to have you on board, Daniel. I'd now like to introduce Jane Cherry. Diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa at 31 years of age, Jane has been actively involved in raising awareness of an inherited retinal disease and raising funds to support their medical research in early detection and treatments. Jane was appointed to the board of Retina Australia in 2021, where she has raised awareness of inherited retinal disease through the promotion of campaigns and social media communication strategies. That'll be very helpful on our committee. Jane is committed to the challenge of ensuring ongoing funding for IRD research and making sure those diagnosed have the information and support they need to be fully equipped for the journey ahead. Thanks, Jane. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Ronelle Hutchinson. Also an independent committee member, and I should introduce, or maybe I'll get you to do the introductions.
This is my son, Sam.
Ronelle is a mother of three, including a child living and thriving with low vision from an inherited retinal disease. Sam. That'll be the last time, Sam. Ronelle's professional background is as an executive in public policy spanning health, aged care, disability sectors and working with both federal and state governments. Ronelle is passionate about ensuring that the voices and experiences of consumers inform clinical care and research design. She is the author of the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners Patient Feedback Guide, first edition, and undertook a PhD research examining the use of social media to improve health literacy for patients with chronic health problems. She has previously served on the Monash University Human Research Ethics Committee and is currently a board member of the Association for Children with Disability. So welcome, Ronelle, and thank you. I'd now like to introduce Chris Edwards, who's an advocacy group member with the committee. Chris is a manager and a director with extensive experience across the human services sector. He has specific expertise in disability inclusion and improving organisation performance in service delivery. Chris is currently the Director of Government Relations and Advocacy for Vision Australia, and His other current appointments include Non-Executive Director Aruma, Non-Executive Director Disability Media Australia, and a member of the People and Culture Committee for the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. I hope you have time, Chris, to sit on that. He also sits on the Victorian Accessible Transport Advisory Committee and a range of other transport and disability inclusion-related advisory bodies. Prior to his appointments, prior board appointments include Non-Executive Director of the Tipping Foundation, Retina Australia, and the Disability Attendant Support Service Incorporated. Chris is a Seeing Eye Dog handler and works in partnership with his Seeing Eye Dog, Eva. We won't ask Eva to stand. We have CERA researchers on our committee, and we've already met Flora. So thank you again, Flora, for emceeing today. Flora has a particular interest in innovative methods to improve patient outcomes in optometry, ophthalmology, and neuroprotectants for treating glaucoma. She completed a Master of Philosophy and a Doctor of Philosophy in Fundamental Science, concentrating on animal models of glaucoma and using the retina as a biomarker for the brain. She moved into glaucoma clinical research at CERA, focusing on developing novel clinical tools that measure retinal structure and function to shorten the time frame to detect glaucoma progression. Welcome, Flora. Lewis. Where are you, Lewis? Oh, he's up the back. Dr. Lewis Larkin Martinez. And Lewis is a principal investigator here at CERA, head of the visual neurovascular research, and his research focuses on how vascular dysfunction may contribute to neurodegenerative diseases and vision loss. Lewis has spent over a decade working in visual sciences and neurosciences in Europe and Canada and the US, and he has developed a sophisticated technical skills and innovative imaging setups and microsurgical skills to study retinal diseases such as glaucoma, AMD and ischemic retinopathy. Welcome. Dr. Myra McGuinness. Thank you. Myra is head of biostatistics at CERA. She graduated from the University of Melbourne with a PhD in biostatistics. Get it right, Simon. Biostatistics, which focused on statistical models to investigate survival bias in observational studies. Myra is an honorary research fellow and research supervisor at the Melbourne School of Population and Global Health's Centre for Epidemiology and Biostatistics, and has been employed at CERA since 2014. Myra is passionate about incorporating best practice methodology when designing research studies and assessing results at CERA. So welcome, Myra. And then we have our Cerulea clinical trials representatives, Professor Lyndall Lim. Professor Lyndall Lim is the uveitis and medical retina subspecialist and leads CERA's clinical trials research. After completing her ophthalmology training in Melbourne, Professor Lim then completed 2 fellowships, one in medical training, medical retina at the Royal Victorian Eye and Ear Hospital, and one in the uveitis ocular inflammatory disease at the Casey Eye Institute in Portland, Oregon, USA. Professor Lim's main research interests are clinical studies in the field of uveitis and ocular imology, and diabetic retinopathy. Her team runs both investigator-initiated and sponsored clinical trials that aim to investigate new treatments in a variety of ophthalmic diseases. Obviously, Professor Lyndall Lim couldn't be here today, but we look forward to her contribution to our group. And Michelle Gallagher. Michelle... We're going to hear from Michelle very soon. So Michelle is the Chief Executive Officer of Cerulea. Michelle's an award-winning thought leader, speaker, advocate and health technology entrepreneur, and has established a number of startups, including the application of artificial intelligence for improving and predicting clinical trial outcomes. Her career spans clinical and administrative roles in public and private health, commercial and executive roles with biotech, pharmaceutical and medical organisations, as well as leading biotech peak body and influencing legislation and regulation in health tech. Michelle is a renowned champion for the application of artificial intelligence in healthcare and the role of ethics and digital leadership in technology and development. And it's great to have someone of your calibre assisting us with our group. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Kelly Schultz. I must say, you know, Kelly has been responsible for not only, I think, driving the strategy, the consumer strategy at CERA in her short time. How long have you, is it 12?
Not yet, 9.
9 months. 9 months. You've done 12 months worth of work in 9 months. But Kelly's been responsible for driving the strategy, but also, I think, pulling together the group and ensuring that, indeed, that we have the calibre of people represented. Indeed, also responsible for pulling together the forum today. Throughout her career, Kelly's held senior corporate roles in complaints, accessibility and inclusion, customer experience and brand communications. Kelly has a blend of strategic thinking and human-centred design methodologies and brings alignment of disparate groups to influence positive momentum and drive growth. Kelly holds board roles in disability service provision on the Victorian Disability Worker Registration Board and is a member of the Technology, Innovation and Value Creation Committee of Swinburne University. She is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Development. Kelly identifies as blind with just enough vision to be dangerous and is ably assisted by her guide dog, Velvet. Velvet's pretty chilled here. We won't ask Velvet to stand. So that's our consumer advisory group, and I'm sure you would agree that CERA's assembled a group that has quite extraordinary and impressive credentials. I extend my thanks on behalf of CERA for each member giving generously of their skills, experience and time, and I'm pleased to be able to share with you today a little bit about the group. We see it making an invaluable contribution and laying the foundation for meaningful long-term involvement of consumers at CERA and Cerulea. It will help CERA remain at the forefront of consumer-centred research. So thank you.
Thank you, Simon. And so I'm really grateful to be one of the 3 researchers at CERA to sit on this advisory group. And as someone who is part of the first generation to go to university in my family, let alone the only one to have a PhD, and from a culturally diverse background where English was not my first language, I'm excited to bring my voice, not just as a researcher, but as a person as well, and to make the research that we do here more inclusive and accessible at CERA and Cerulea. And what a great opportunity for us to look at how we can embed the consumer voice and the people that we're actually trying to help in all facets of our work. So I'm excited for us to get started and looking forward to working with this great group of people with their diverse voices. And so now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Michelle Gallagher, Cerulea Clinical Trials Chief Executive Officer. She also represents Cerulea as part of our Consumer Advisory Group. Over to you, Michelle.
Thanks very much, Flora, and thank you for taking the time to come here today, and to everyone online. We really appreciate the gift of your attention. So today I want to start off by telling you a little bit of a story about why clinical trials matter and why it matters to me. So a friend and colleague, her name was Athena Sagorakis, we worked together in the biotech sector. And some years ago, we'd parted ways. She'd gone on with her career somewhere else, and so did I. But I got this phone call from her, and I remember exactly where I was the day that I got the phone call. And she said, I've got stage 4 melanoma. And she was 49. And she said, I need your help. I need to get into a clinical trial. I need to be able to address this. And there's probably no getting out of this, but I want to be able to live a bit longer, and I want to be able to live well. So she and I were really lucky. She was a microbiologist. I'd worked in the biotech sector, in the space around oncology, and we knew who to call. So we went through and called everybody. We called the head of oncology at Peter Mac. I called all of the pharmaceutical companies and all of the head of clinical operations that I knew all over the world, and I said, how do I get my friend into this clinical trial? We got her into 3 clinical trials. So she was the first participant recruited into 2 trials. And those trials extended her life for probably about 3.5 years to what she otherwise would have had. And we were privileged. We were 2 very, very privileged women to have an extraordinary education, an amazing connection within the biotech and pharmaceutical industry. And we knew exactly where to go. We knew what it would take to get her access to these new emerging drugs that were coming on market. And we knew the right people to talk to. And that's not fair. It's just not fair. It's not fair for everybody else that's out there that doesn't have that knowledge. And it's what inspires me to come here every day to lead an extraordinary team doing clinical trials that will hopefully make a difference in your lives and the people around you, and maybe the people that will come after us. So let me tell you a little bit about clinical trials. And the amazing thing about clinical trials is they're a wonderful space in which there's so many advantages that come with it. When we do a clinical trial, we create an opportunity for our doctors, nurses, orthoptists, optometrists to learn and to grow in the field. It gives them career opportunities that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have seen. It means that if we do clinical trials in this country, it means that medical research that's discovered at CERA, at the universities and other institutes and hospitals can stay in Australia a little bit longer, which means we can get the economic impact of that for a little bit longer. It means jobs, it means opportunities for researchers and scientists to see their discoveries fly and get done right around the corner rather than sending them off to the US or Europe. It also means, most importantly, that our people, you, me, people who have conditions that need to see new therapies coming down the tube into the market, it means that we can access those new therapies before they get to market and be part of a research agenda. And not everybody knows this, so I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say it at the end of my few minutes, is here's what I need you to do, not what I'm asking you to do, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to go and talk about clinical trials with your friends and family. I need you to think about how to talk about what this means for people. I often hear people say, clinical trials, oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's for me. I'm not sure. Of course, there's risk. There's always risk when we don't know, and that's why we do clinical trials. There's always some degree of risk, but our job is to make it as advantageous as possible, to be able to make sure you're as informed as possible, and that we create an opportunity to prove or disprove a new therapy works or doesn't work. So what we do at Cerulea, we're owned by CERA, so we're a wholly owned subsidiary, we're a not-for-profit organisation, and we do clinical trials here on the 7th floor, and you're all very welcome to come and have a look at that. But we do clinical trials here for a number of pharmaceutical, biotech, medtech companies from around the world, many of them from the US, and those new emerging therapies are available here, and our participants can access those. We also do clinical trials for the researchers at CERA. We're here to make sure their discoveries fly. We're here to make sure that any discoveries that come from the ecosystem here in Melbourne or Australia have a clinical trial unit in which those discoveries can be proven in that space. Our job is to get out there around the world and tell the world about what we can do, show the world that what we have at Cerulea is extraordinary. It's one of the largest clinical trial units in ophthalmology in the world and the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. And at the moment, we're running nearly 30 trials concurrently through the unit. And by this time next year, hopefully that'll be double. And for the money that we make in doing the trials, because we charge pharmaceutical companies, biotechs and medtech companies to do the trials, all of that goes back into discovery research. And that's our promise, is to be a not-for-profit in which our business model helps to fund the discovery engine for people like Louis and Flora and all of the others in the room, Lauren included. And our job is to make sure that we are profitable so as that money can go back into that space. So what we hope to do is to create a participant experience that is extraordinary. We want you and the people that you maybe know and maybe people you influence, if they decide to come into a clinical trial, that they get the best standard of care, or at least the current standard of care, if not the best. It means that they can access new emerging therapies as they come through the clinical development timeline and then into the market. It means that you've got a connection to research. It means that as you make the time to come in and work with us as a participant in studies, that you hopefully learn more about your condition and hopefully maybe meet other people with the condition that you have. It means that you are part of the discovery engine and you're very much a partner in the research agenda, not just a participant. And it's interesting because participating in clinical trials around the world is quite different in different countries. But in Australia, it's a space in which we excel at. Australia is particularly good at clinical trials, and our promise now is to make sure that we are one of the best, if not the best, in the world at ophthalmic clinical trials. So that's my promise to you, and it's my promise to CERA, is that we will succeed in attracting new technologies to Australia so as Australian patients can get hold of these new technologies and hopefully before they come to market. It means that our researchers in this country have an extraordinary facility in which to see their research fly. It means that we create jobs, particularly for allied healthcare professionals that see research as part of their career pathway. And it means that we can hold the economic and healthcare impact in Australia for as long as possible so as we don't lose that overseas. So I please ask you, please go away, talk about clinical trials. If you'd like to register for a clinical trial, you can go to our website and you can self-register. You can talk to your doctor, and I encourage you to talk to your ophthalmologist, your optometrist, your GP, your pharmacist even, and tell them about clinical trials, because these days consumers are very much a driver on the value created in clinical trials and exactly the way that clinical trials get run. So thank you so much for your attention today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle. And I would like to now introduce you to our final speaker, Associate Professor Lauren Ayton. Lauren is a member of CERA's executive team, and she co-leads the Retinal Gene Therapy Unit and Venture Inherited Retinal Disease Registry with Dr. Tom Edwards. And now I'll hand it over to you, Lauren.
Thanks so much, Flora, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to come and speak to you today. I'm going to start with a bit of a story as well about how I got into this space. So I've got two brothers. Both of them had vision problems when I was a child. So my older brother was completely blind from a traumatic brain injury. And my younger brother had a condition that's called amblyopia or lazy eye. And that's really easy to treat. You just need to put a patch on the eye that's working better. And he wore glasses and his vision is now normal. And so as a child, I just remember thinking how unfair that was, that one of my brothers could get sight back, but not the other. And that really evoked a passion in me for this space. And so I am so privileged to come to work every day to try and work towards cures for vision problems. But it's a challenge. And you know, we are all still here in this room because we can't click our fingers and have a treatment. And one of the most important things with our research is hearing from the experts, and that's the people that have these vision conditions. We ourselves don't have the vision condition that you may have, and so we really need to work with our consumers and our community to know what the best research to do is. And so I've called this little talk today, you know, learning from the experts, because it's 100% that the basis of our research is doing work that's important to everyone here. Now, I do have some slides for those of you who can't see them. It's just to keep me online, otherwise I will talk for 10 hours. This is a very passionate space for me. So I wanted to let you know about the type of research that I work in, which is inherited retinal diseases. And these are the most common cause of vision loss in people of working age, and they affect about 1 in 3,000 people. And so for those of you that can see the slide, I've got a picture of the back of a normal eye, which I've had someone tell me looks like the planet Mars. Kind of does. So it's basically a red sort of appearance. There is a white circle, which is the optic nerve that takes the pictures from your eye back to your brain, and then blood vessels that keep our retina healthy. What happens in inherited retinal diseases is you can get a whole raft of different changes to the retina. And in a lot of them, we see black pigment spots. Many of you may have heard of the term retinitis pigmentosa. It's because of this pigment change that we can see. But the problem is that there's actually over 300 different genes that cause inherited retinal diseases, and they all present differently and they all have different prognoses. And so it's really hard for us to come up with a one-size-fits-all. Thankfully, there are a lot of emerging treatments coming through our pipeline now. Michelle just spoke beautifully about the importance of having Cerulea here in our clinical trials centre, and we're running a number of gene therapy trials, oral therapeutic trials and others looking at treating these inherited retinal diseases. And what I'm really excited about is here in Melbourne, we're actually working across all of these spaces. So we have experts in genes, in gene therapy, in the bionic eye. The first bionic eye trial in Australia was run here in Melbourne, and we've had 7 people implanted with those devices, and also things like stem cells. So there's a huge raft of basic research and science that's really underpinning our clinical trials. But my real interest is, so what? If we're coming up with all of these amazing treatment options, do people who have these conditions actually want to access them? And how do we remove any barriers so that people that could benefit from a treatment can access it in a timely manner? And so I'm incredibly proud of this work that really was started by Heather Mack, an ophthalmologist that some of you may know. And she really wanted to start surveying people that had inherited retinal diseases about what was important to them and how they felt about gene therapy. It's kind of a scary term. You know, you kind of start thinking about, oh, what does that actually mean? And so we wanted to find out the current state of knowledge. So we've done 2 surveys now. We did one in Australia, which is the data that I'm going to talk about now, and we've done one globally as well. So overall, we've actually surveyed over 1,300 people now that have inherited retinal diseases, and some of you in the room probably did our survey. A huge thank you if you did. The really interesting thing that we found is that people that replied to the survey said that they really wanted gene therapy. They were really interested in this technique, and both in Australia and overseas, it's about 92% of people would take up gene therapy if it was available for them. But only about 28% of people actually felt like they knew what gene therapy was. And so there's obviously a big gap here, and that's really our role as researchers and clinicians to make sure that people know what the treatment options are, how to get involved with clinical trials, and what the future might hold for some of these eye diseases as well. So we really need to work as clinicians, researchers, and the broader community to identify these knowledge gaps and these barriers and try and help people to see what the future could hold for those that have different eye diseases. And so a huge part of our research is just connecting with people that have these conditions and having those conversations on a regular basis. So one thing that I wanted to highlight is an initiative that was just done, and it was actually led by our colleagues in Sydney, and we were really proud to be part of this. And we actually went out to people that had inherited retinal disease and said, right, what would you like us to research? What is the most important thing to you at this point in time? And we had a working group of 15 members, and that was people that had a condition or were a parent of someone who had the condition, clinicians, researchers, and people from consumer organisations as well. We then did a number of surveys and, again, used social media and all the things you can think of. We had almost 70 people respond to us and tell us what their important things were. And this was just free text. They just basically wrote what they were interested in, what they thought we should focus on. We then came up with 223 research questions, enough to keep me going for multiple lifetimes. Thankfully, we were able to combine a lot of those. So we had 42 overarching research questions, and we went through and worked out, have any of these been answered? And a sad thing for us was that, 41 of the 42 were still unanswered questions. And so, again, a lot of space for us to do research. We then took that list back out to people, different group of people, 151 this time, and said, right, please help us to rank these. And there were also some focus groups and working groups to do that as well. And we've come up with our inherited retinal disease list of important topics. And so if any of you are interested, please let me know. I can circulate that, and we have it on our CERA social media as well. But this for me was a really powerful project because it wasn't just my research team engaging with people in the community, it was all of us around Australia. So we had people from Perth and Sydney and Melbourne and other places coming together to really say, we want to research what is most important to you. Now, when I was preparing this talk, I went to put a slide up of the partner organisations to thank, and then I realised there's too many to fit into a slide. I would like to do a couple of special shout-outs to people who are in the audience. So Retina Australia have been absolutely pivotal for our research and have been a part of it since we started. Vision Australia, again, have helped us so much with the work that we do. Blind Citizens Australia as well. We are really interested, and I think a take-home message is that the researchers at CERA and Cerulea want to hear from everybody, even if you're not affiliated with an advocacy group. And that's why I'm so proud of the work that Kelly's doing and this consumer advocacy group. We're making sure that we reach out to everyone that we can to find out what's most important to you and keep this research moving forward. So thank you for your time today, and please do stay engaged with us as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. It's always exciting to hear about what you've been up to. And so I hope you found today's presentations informative and that you now have some new insight about some of the exciting new research and initiatives on the horizon. And so it's a really exciting time for eye research, and we're delighted to be able to share news of our progress and latest developments with our supporters. Community events such as these are an important way of us to connect with you and also to say thank you as well for your ongoing support and interest. And if you've enjoyed today's event and would like to attend another one, then please do sign up to receive either a printed or digital copy of the CERA newsletter, Visionary. We promise not to spam you with emails. I'd also like to add that next Thursday, the 10th of October, is World Sight Day, and it's a very important date in our fundraising calendar, and it would be remiss of me not to mention that just for 24 hours on that day, every dollar up to the first $50,000 you give will be tripled by our generous supporters. That means for every $1 that you donate, CERA will receive $3. So for more information about this, please visit our website or speak to one of our team members at the Vision Expo Expo tables. And that's a wrap for today's formalities. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us here in person as well as online, and we would love to hear from you as well for any feedback. Please scan the QR code that we have on the screen to complete the feedback form, or speak to one of our staff as well if you have any questions or feedback you'd like to give to us. And so for those here in person, please join us for some light refreshments outside the auditorium, and also feel free to continue browsing the Mini Vision Expo stalls as well. Thank you again.